24 people have been released in the biggest prisoner exchange between Russia and Western countries since the Cold War.
More records broken in swimming, while an Australian judge gets removed for embracing a compatriot.
Dozens have been freed in the largest Russia-US prisoner exchange since the Cold War.
The European Parliament, elected in June, is the first ever to have less women as MEPs. But how does it affect the people who lead the different committees, and how are women represented there? According to the European Women's Lobby, even the committees are mostly made up of men.
Portfolios that matter, like what we call hard portfolio, where you have money, where you have power, like foreign affairs, for instance, budget, economy, usually go to men in terms of heading the committees, just like the proportion of members in these committees also is highly male dominated. So that's unfortunately still a reality. In terms of having women chairs, vice chairs, etc.
This difference is not directly linked to the rise of the far right seen in these elections, but some experts believe that women elected for those parties do not necessarily defend women's rights.
What is a bit concerning, though, is that the far right parties or groups in the European Parliament do have quite a substantial representation of women for some of them, but then it's also groups that are not known to support women's rights. They're quite hostile to women's rights. So it's also a new challenge for us in that sense, that we are going to have to identify who is going to support us, who is going to champion women's rights.
The EU has over the past 5 years passed some important legislation. It includes the first law to prevent violence against women. Analysts and experts, however, are asking for more.
Something we want to see is also having dedicated budget to women's rights, maybe having conditionalities when it comes to, tenders and the attribution of budget linked to women's rights and gender equalities.
The European Women's Lobby says it is aiming for parity in the College of Commissioners, something that the President, Ursula von der Leyen, is also pushing for.
Another historic day in swimming at the Paris Olympics. Canada's Summer McIntosh swam the women's 200-meter butterfly in 2 minutes 03:03 to set the fastest time at the Summer Games. Team US Katie Ledecky won silver in the 200-meter freestyle relay to become the most decorated woman in the sport's history. More joy for the Americans in gymnastics as Simone Biles edged Brazil's Rebecca Andrade for her second Olympic all-around title at Paris 2024. In tennis, Spain's Alcaraz, Serbia's Djokovic, Italy's Musetti and Canada's Felix Auger-Aliassime reached the men's singles semi-finals, while in women's basketball, Germany, France and the US moved to the quarter-finals. In surfing, an Australian judge was removed after a picture emerged on social media of him embracing a compatriot contestant along the shore's edge in Tahiti.
Ovdje njih ima 14. Znači sa unučadima i sin i ovaj što je bolesan i bebu što imaju bolesnu. Znači ovo je haos kuća ovdje. Stvarno, a nigdje ne radu nikako primanje osim jedan socijalno.
Konkretno su pre svega izrađene zgrade za socijalno stanovanje, gde smo najugroženije porodice koje su imali jako loše uslove za stanovanje, izgradili i objekat i uselili ih u te objekte.
U ovoj kući je živelo 6 osoba koji su kroz socijalno stanovanje, program socijalnog stanovanja koje je realizovala opština Vrnjačka Banja, smešteni u novoizgrađenu zgradu. Ja sam vrlo srećan što je ova porodica najzad dobila smeštaj.
Imamo i gde da spavamo, nismo nagumili ono kao sredine.
Pa imam samo jednog, to je on. Imam 17 godine. Dobro, ovdje imamo kuhinju, imamo kupatilo, mislim, imamo da se kupamo i to. Tamo nismo imali gde, tamo smo morali sve u korito. Tako da, ovdje je baš super.
This August marks the entry into force of the AI Act, the EU framework law to regulate artificial intelligence, and the first legislation in the world to do that with mandatory rules. According to the EU Commission, some practices will become illegal starting from February 2025. One of them, real-time facial recognition. Other AI systems that are determined as high risk, like the ones used to detect migrants at the borders, will have strict regulations to follow. Companies and public services have up to 2 years to adjust, according to the EU Commission.
This is the first legislation in the world that tackles risks created by the usage of AI, and at the same time, by doing this, tries to build more trust in the use of AI and create more opportunities for everyone to make the best use of AI in Europe so that people can have better working conditions, more occasions to learn and live in a better way thanks to these technologies.
The European Commission has said it is creating an office to supervise the law enforcement, while the EU member states will have to put in place national authorities for the application of the rules in their country. Celebrating the regulation, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the law will drive AI development while supporting European small and medium enterprises. EU citizens will have some novelties to deal with.
The labeling of AI-generated content so that people can know when a deep fake that shows someone saying and doing things he has never said and done is actually something that is fake. So transparency, but also, for example, the prohibition of the use of AI for emotional recognition in workplaces and study places, and also the checks on certain use cases that are more sensitive, like, for example, the use by a doctor towards a patient of an AI system that with this legislation will be checked on the data that has been used and on its security so that it can be used safely.
If a company does not comply with the AI Act, it could face severe fines up to 7% of their global annual turnover, according to the new rules.
Welcome to Shenzhen, about an hour north of Tirana in Albania. As you can see, it's a bustling tourism destination. But a couple of years ago, it also became home to several hundred Afghan refugees after the Taliban took back power in Afghanistan. Today, many still remain and are calling it home. But it has made headlines for another kind of migrant recently. At the end of 2023, the Albanian government and the Italian government signed an agreement that would see migrants found by the Italian authorities processed in Albania.
Between here, the port, and Jadra, there will be capacity of 3,000 people. They will arrive here first, they will have their details taken, they'll then be transferred to Jadra. Both centres are closed. That means no one can go in and no one can go out. They will be guarded and secured internally by the Italian authorities, as they're technically Italian soil. Externally, the perimeter will be patrolled by Albanian authorities. When they are at the centres, they will be provided with healthcare, legal assistance, and of course basic necessities, food and toiletries. Everything is funded by the Italian government. Today I have been given exclusive information from a senior official who has said that this centre behind me will be ready to accept people as of the 15th of August, meaning the initial deadline of the 1st of August will be missed. So there will be a capacity of 1,000 people who will be welcomed. Meanwhile, work is continuing on Jadra. They confirmed to me that both centres will be fully operational at full capacity by the start of September. So as for what local people think about these two centres, it's true there have been protests in Tirana and Leisure, and there are people who are against them. But I spend a lot of time in this area. I live locally here for half of the year, and I've spoken to a lot of local people. And honestly, they're not really that bothered about it. They understand the centres will be closed, and they're not particularly worried about any negative impact on tourism or the local economy. They've had experience with Afghans coming to live here who've integrated, who are now part of the community. They're not really that bothered. Also, they're not very keen to talk to the media for a wide range of reasons. But overall, people are not too concerned, and they're hopeful that perhaps investment from the Italian government might improve some infrastructure, such as electric and roads in the local area.